Hey, what's up, my friends? Welcome to another episode. Let me go ahead and put these guys on so I look cool. Look like a call service or a gamer. Today in this video, we are going to talk about, as you see on the screen, scams. We're going to talk about scams, not just in the crypto space, the trading space. I mean, this is stock market, this is real estate, this is everything. This is gold and silver, this is everywhere you see this happening. And this isn't really a topic that I've talked about too much on this channel. I've definitely had huge urges, especially in the past. This channel started off as a crypto channel. And so I was a beginning investor, did a lot of really dumb things, invested in all the wrong things. And after all that, a lot of that started to fall apart. Me, just like so many others, was tempted to shoot videos and expose the frauds and expose the scammers, right? And I think with the current climate of what we're seeing politicians getting away with, and different people that are like public figures who can just lie after lie after lie after lie, and nothing happens to them. So it's like people, I think, get really, really aggressive when it's like a regular person, because I think in their mind there's all this buildup. So they're like, finally I can get somebody and put their balls on the chopping block and pay them back for this, right? Like, justice is served. But understand that at any given time in a society, there's a bigger market cycle happening. There is an intelligence cycle that is happening. There's this big mega cycle happening. What I mean by that is at any given time on the planet, there are X percentage of people who are completely dedicated towards being a monk, completely dedicated towards just the wellness of the planet, of humanity, and that is their sole goal. And there's a small percentage of those people. And at any given time, there's a percentage of people who are robbing stores, robbing people, robbing banks, right? So both ends of the scale. And everything you could imagine in between all of that, in between those two polarizing ends, is also existing at any given time. So market intelligence does go in cycles. An ad that worked for a weight loss campaign in 1970 would not work today. And if you were to walk down the street and hand that out to people and say, hey, would you buy this? What would they probably say? I'm not an idiot, right? But at any given time, and this is a really bad word to use, is there are a certain amount of idiots in every single market. And the whole purpose is part of an ascension model that we all go through, a intelligence and a growth process that we all go through, which I think is just a natural part of life. Now, none of what I'm saying right now, I just want to disclose this, none of what I'm saying is excusing scamming. I'm just giving you a different perspective. To a degree, we need this polarization. Without black, we wouldn't know white. Without white, we wouldn't know black. And could white exist and nothing else? If that was the only color, it'd get pretty boring. If life was just bliss all the time, it would get pretty boring, right? So there is the contrast that exists in life to help us what? Grow. That is my belief. I believe that's one of the core reasons why we're here, is so that our soul, who we really are, can grow. Not to get too deep. Let's pull it back a little bit, okay? These situations that happen to us, what is the gut check response that we usually all cling to? Being a victim, right? You did this to me. It's your fault, not mine. And that's a common response. I just want to note that there are other responses, and usually the victim response and victimhood itself is not empowering. Its whole goal, actually, believe it or not, which this has been perpetuated through genders and races throughout time in the United States and throughout the world, it's very disempowering. And that's its whole goal. Victimhood is an ego play that disempowers you, takes away your power, makes you weak and vulnerable. Because what it's really saying is that I was weak and stupid in this moment and I made this decision, but then I want to get back in line for my paycheck. I want to get back in line when the FBI recovers the money. I want to get back in line when this happens. When what we really should be talking about is what can we learn from the event itself so that we can increase our intelligence, so that we just make better decisions in the future. This part of the cycle is market intelligence, or marketing terms are market sophistication, right? Eugene Schwartz first talked about this, I think, in the 60s or 70s. And this, this does bring up a topic of marketing, right? So where do you draw the line of marketing, scamming, morals, no morals, right? That, I think, to a degree, is going to vary between person to person. I think we can all ballpark that, being a good person isn't hard to define. Having morals isn't hard to define, right? But where marketing might cross the line and spinning words to say you could become a millionaire versus you will be a millionaire, you could make thousands of dollars versus you'll make $3,231 by tomorrow, right? There's a difference in claims that really separates somebody that's just flat out frauding, and somebody who's or scamming, and somebody who is just making a claim on what is possible and improperly disclosing that. And this has all actually changed. Believe it or not, I was actually able to be in the internet marketing space when it was first starting out, and now almost nobody calls it internet marketing, online marketing. Right? It's called growth hacking, and it's something hacking. And it's just the next iteration of growth for that market, because people are sick. They were sick of hearing about internet marketing, and it lost its sizzle, right? Just like broad claims of, lose weight quick wore out. And so now it's got to be lose weight in 30 days through, this certain mechanism, this certain thing, right? So there's so many different pieces that have now, market sophistication pieces that have now gone through its different phases in different markets. And that all ties into scamming, believe it or not, okay? Now, what's interesting to me, and I will say this, is I'm a big fan of marketing. I'm a big fan of ethical marketing. I love marketing. Marketing is literally what has sold everything in the past up until now. Everything that you have seen take off, whether it's a great idea and it's completely changed the world for the better, or the worst fucking idea you've ever heard of that just, why is that still around? That's marketing. To be able to take an idea and have it spread like a virus through everybody's mind and everybody's way of life, that is marketing. So we need marketing. Anyone who tells you differently, people who say that they hate marketing, it sucks, it doesn't work, I think they're idiots, flat out, okay? There's a place for it. There really is, in every single market, every single sub-niche inside of a market as well. Okay, let's talk about specifics, and I'm going to try and focus more on behavior versus people with going through this, but we recently presented like this new foundation piece that, in this, I guess, direction that I'm going personally with my portfolio. We have this family portfolio we're working on, and we are going into now real estate. And so I'm researching all these real estate people and podcasts and different strategies and techniques. And of course, you're not going to get too far without finding at least 4 or 5 people that over the last 1 year, 2 years, 7 years have been scamming. Okay. And same thing in crypto. So we're going to start with crypto, pivot into real estate. Maybe I'll talk about some other experiences I've had, but scamming is definitely nothing new. We all know this, right? And I think the only thing that's different is people's perspective about it. You'll get people when something like this happens that respond on both ends of the spectrum. Let's fry them, all but kill them. And hey, let's forgive them because everybody makes mistakes. And then you have people who fall in the spectrum in between all that, right? So this was actually just, speaking of scam, today has really just been a day of, for some reason in my Twitter feed and in all my research in real estate, I just came across two bigger stories that sparked this idea in my mind to talk about. This piece here is talking about crypto Twitter scammers. This is even a thin line, right? If you have no clue about crypto, just understand that there are people who make calls, they have signal groups, people steal other people's calls, like somebody posts a chart which basically says, hey, this one's gonna go here or maybe go there, and it's got all the notes on what they think is gonna happen in the market based on their interpretations, their technical analysis, their fundamental analysis too, right? And you have people who will steal that and pretend like it's their own. That's the most common, easiest scam. And they'll usually do that to drive newbies into a paid signals group or a paid Discord. This happens in crypto. This happens in stock market trading. It's just different vehicles, right? Like in crypto, they're going to use Discord. I don't know why Discord has always been the popular chat app, and Telegram. But in stock market, they don't use shit like that at all. They use other tools because the demographics are probably older. The demographics in crypto are really, really young. Like, I mean, there's a lot of teenagers and sub 19, and you can just tell by the behavior, especially on Twitter. Especially, it's like some of these people act like kids. You can just kind of tell. So that's like the layer 1 scam, right? Next level scam would probably be like an ICO, or now they're rebranded as IEOs, which are just basically a initial offering through an exchange. Before, it was just an initial coin offering, ICO, offered to the public from the coin itself, the project itself. Now they're teaming up with exchanges because of rules and regulation changes, as well as just the market got smarter. So it needed to go to the next level, right? There's 5 levels of market sophistication. Go ahead and Google this if you want more. Eugene Schwartz, 5 levels of market sophistication. It's amazing stuff. When you actually understand how that works at a market level, oh my God, you'll realize what's going on and why a razor, a Gillette razor has to scratch your back, itch your balls, and shave your chin at the same time. Okay, you'll realize what's going on there. Anyways, coming back to it. So now IEO is the new thing. You have a ton of projects that are raising hundreds of millions of dollars through 2018, the crypto bear market. And they have just disappeared. Some of them do a really shitty exit scam, and some of them do a really elaborate exit scheme. One of the ones I can think of in an exchange in Canada, I can never remember the name. It's like OX something. They're still digging up if this guy, supposedly the owner died in died with the private keys and nobody can access the funds. I don't think this is actually true. There's mounting evidence against this story, but that's a more elaborate exit scam, right? And so there are these scams going on all over the place. So does that mean that people themselves are stupid? No. It just means that in a brand new market where it's termed, you ever notice how in a brand new market, it's termed as being different, right? It's going to be different this time, especially in finance, right? It's going to be different this time. Going to give the power back to the people. All this languaging is used, and it's used to prey on people who are sick of Big Brother, sick of the establishment, sick of government, sick of taxes, sick of all this stuff. That's who got into crypto in the very beginning, 2013. And through 2017, once the price action got high enough, you got all the suckers. You got all the retail money. There will always be retail money. And unfortunately, a lot of retail money is not really that smart. You have retail money in real estate too, and metals. And the people in those, the retail money in those markets behave differently. So in real estate, they'll fall for turnkey cash flow properties. And because the guy's quoting, Robert Kiyosaki's 4-quadrant model, they're like, oh my God, this guy knows what he's talking about. He's got a podcast. He's been on national television. He must know, right? So a lot of this just boils down to authority bias and different cognitive fallacies that we all fall for that then drive us to do stupid shit. So if there's one lesson you could learn from all of this, is awareness is key. And I talk about that so much on this channel. Like, I feel like I could spend the next 50 years, the next lifetime, just talking about the power of awareness, and it still wouldn't really change but 1 or 2% of the world demographics, right? So anyways, same thing happened here. Retail money got in. They got suckered in. I mean, CNBC Fast Money, those guys were talking about Ripple at the very top, $3.20 or 30 cents. Like the very next day, the price started tumbling. There's a lot of people that fell for it, that lost a lot of money in cryptocurrency. I lost a lot of money in cryptocurrency. I did a lot of dumb shit in cryptocurrency. I made mistakes. People followed me. I didn't realize that I had the authority that I did. And that's where the second half of this conversation is going to go, is like, what behavior changes should you really expect after you fuck up as a man, as a woman, right? Okay, that's going to be the second half. So anyways, here we go. There's just a long list of people who are scamming. Some really big. Like, look at this. This guy did $110,000 worth of Ripple, then came up with this fake hack story, and then just disappeared. Another person, this guy's been around for a really long time, actually, sold all kinds of stuff, huge write-ups all over the internet about this guy. He's had plastic surgery. He's been all over Asia as just this huge scammer. And now he gets people to give him like $10,000 to $100,000 in Bitcoin to manage. And I'm sure he loses it. Okay. But yeah, so anyways, in Twitter, there's like this constant battle of calling out the scammer. And I think the reason why is because there's so much money to be made in crypto, just like the stock market, just like real estate, that you have certain people. There's two things that happen when you've made money in a market really quickly. First thing is you have imposter syndrome creep in. You feel like a fraud. You feel like, God, man, I feel really bad. I just made a bunch of money really quick. So you feel like you did something wrong, okay? That's imposter syndrome. So we have that, but then there's also like this little creeping in of like arrogance and ego that's saying like, yeah, dude, I'm the shit. I just made 20 grand off Bitcoin. I just became a millionaire off Bitcoin. Yeah, fuck you, right? So both of those are constantly creeping in, and imposter syndrome will get you to do some funny stuff, right? So I see that as an extension of calling out the scammer. So calling out the scammer to me is a little bit of, yes, you're falling for hero syndrome, which we all fall for, but you're also falling for imposter syndrome based on probably the gains that you're getting yourself because you're doing good, right? So anyways, that's the crypto space. I think that summarizes crypto, that summarizes the stock market, but let's talk about a little different variation of that I found recently in real estate. I'm looking at all these different strategies and methods for how we're going to start to build up cash flow based real estate portfolio, right? And that will be a lot of the topic points and stuff we talk about on the podcast too, which I'm super excited about. But anyways, I came across this. This was one of the early podcasts that I came across, and I will say that this community here, biggerpockets.com, is really cheap to join. I have no affiliation with them whatsoever, no affiliate link, no nothing, but I have found some incredible information in this community. If you're into the real estate game at all, this is probably a great community for you to join. They've been around for, I think, 9 or 10 years now. Tons of books, tons of resources, every different kind of strategy you could imagine. Now, that being said, they're talking about this specific person here. What's going on with it? Which it's obviously getting a lot of traction right now, 937 replies, but believe it or not, this has been going on for years and years and years. But apparently now, like, the lid is really starting to come off and the can of worms is really starting to let out, because, I mean, we're talking about hundreds of people and we're talking about millions of dollars that has now been lost. The thing I want to talk about, and this is where we're going to pivot the conversation, is we're going to kind of talk about some body language pieces. We're going to talk about really what you should expect. Like, if you as a man or woman fuck up, Like what should you really be doing differently? I will say that right out of the gates, if you haven't changed at all, if you come out in your big apology and this big turning point where you admit that you take ownership, okay, you admit that you fucked up, lost the money, or made a bad decision, or whatever it is, teamed up with the wrong people, and something bad happened to people that trusted you and put trust in you. Like, that's a really shitty position, actually. I went through that right after the crypto bubble because there were some things that I was affiliating and some things that went really, really south. And of course, naturally, the guilt, I wasn't going to stand for that. I wasn't going to try and hide from that. But the guilt was awful. I fucking hate that. But let's talk about what should really change. So first off, you have to be able to be true enough with yourself to come clean. Because there is this element that is true, that, look, we do make mistakes. Part of life is to grow. I know that in the West, it's perpetuated that like failure's bad and you avoid failure at all costs, which means you shouldn't even try. And that's why everyone walks around so subconscious and insecure. But that's not necessarily true at all, actually. But you see here on the video, this guy on the right, your right, is guarded. He's got his arms crossed. This is very usually guarded, especially in this type of a conversation. This is defensive, guarded, and this like, if I'm like this, then it means I'm really uptight and tense. If I'm clenching my fists, like all this body language stuff reflects an inner feeling, right? So anyways, during this video is them coming out and talking about how they screwed up. Now, they do a ton of stuff wrong in this video, by the way. They deflect, play the victim, rehash the same points over and over again about how they were, it wasn't, their fault. They wanted to keep going on and on and on. What they basically admit is that they were insanely ignorant and they are not good at what they're doing. Okay, they're not good with money, they're not good with managing relationships, and they're not good with their own due diligence. And so this should have been huge red flags for a very self-aware society to then never trust these people again, and they would have naturally just phased themselves out. But because we do live in this, again, this macro, bigger cycle that I was just talking about, where there's so many different people giving so many different levels of value. If somebody's giving value, we live in a world now with the internet that if you're giving value, you'll gain an audience. Now that value might be wrong, it might be bad, it might be stupid, but it doesn't really matter, actually. Let me try that again. It's not that it doesn't matter, but it's that you are providing value. And so there's going to be a demographic of people who find value in what you're saying, I guess would be an easier way to say it. You can assume that the natural selection, the Darwinian theory, does prove true to a degree, because as the market gets smarter, people that are scamming or stupid or refuse to grow, refuse to change and be better and have more responsibility with their, I guess you could say, authority, then those people just naturally go away. They'll have no choice because they'll have no audience. They'll have nobody to talk to. To combat like the people that are like, okay, well, what do I do? If you really want to change a market, the best thing you could do is to continue to educate, because education is actually level one, phase one of any market. When a brand new market comes out, what's the most important thing? Education. Okay, so I'll give you an example of this. Couple examples. When crypto came out, the most important thing that anyone that is still around now could have been focusing on back then in the beginning is education. And that's really what helped it grow virally. They never did marketing. They never did an ICO, IPO, IEO, whatever you want to call it. They never did any of that shit. Bitcoin just, one day it wasn't there, the next day it was. And through people educating, it got people in. And now look at it, right? But that all started with education. So that is the most important thing. So if you really want to make a change in your market, in a market, got to educate. Okay, so anyways, and her on the left, and this is usual for women because they're playing a supportive role, especially in a video like this, in a situation like this. Maybe she doesn't even have all the information, but she looks utterly terrified through this whole video. But the whole video is basically where they attempt to play the victim and then reframe it on everybody else. Well, you should have done your due diligence, you should have done your homework. And that doesn't really play true when it's time to take accountability. People don't really want to hear that, I should say, when it's time for you as an individual to take accountability. And the next thing that should happen is, first off, let's rewind for a second. They proved themselves to be very ignorant because they said that they recognized that there was a problem with this property management company they were using, okay? And they didn't do anything about it. And you know why they didn't do anything about it? Because the money was rolling in and they didn't want it to change. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is the most money we've made in our lives. And they got stupid, which proves that they're bad investors and they're probably bad people overall to take advice from if they don't change from here, which I've seen zero evidence of them changing. So in this video, she looks utterly terrified. He's absolutely arrogant, which is what happens. That's another fallacy, especially comes out in men. But when we feel like we're on top of the world, when we've made a bunch of money, and we feel like we have this authority, he looks very annoyed in this video, like annoyed he even has to shoot this video, annoyed that he has to take any kind of responsibility or accountability at all. But this is part of the game. When you have authority, you need to do that. And you need to just be transparent. with people. Okay, so anyways, this is a very half-assed video. It's 51 minutes of crap, and they still got a ton of support, which, going back to it, to play both sides, is this is driving this community nuts. This community, let's say, is more legit. Okay, so, and they've been talking about this business and these people for a very long time, and so it's like fueling the fire for them. Something big will probably end up happening because we're talking about hundreds of people, millions of dollars, right? It's pretty undeniable. You can't really keep hiding from it. But what would have been better, and where people really actually can forgive and forget, is that if you take accountability, admit you screwed up, and then be different, say, hey, I'm going to actually take this and learn from this. We really fell for a lot of stupid shit. And you call out how you were being stupid. You call out for all the fallacies you fell for, all the dumb things you fell for. Yeah, we wanted the money. We were getting these huge rips off of this, and we wanted to keep doing it, so we did. People are going to be more willing to forgive when you actually come out and be transparent like that. But transparent is kind of like a buzzword now. So everyone's transparent these days. Yeah, right. Okay, so when you do screw up and you prove that you've grown off of that, I don't know if you've ever read the 4 agreements, but basically it's like this. You make an agreement, and that agreement usually has some sort of commitment, deadline, etc. If you make it, great. Adds personal power to you. It builds your self-image, builds your confidence in your own abilities in yourself to deliver the bacon, to hit the deadlines, do things on time, right? But when you don't, you need to be a man or woman, and you need to face up to the people that were involved in this equation. Say, hey, I messed up. I made mistakes. From what I can see right now, it was mistakes. Boom, boom, boom. And so what I'd like to do is make a new commitment. Give me 30 more days to fix this, okay? And what you can expect is this. Maybe throw them a little extra. Or add a little icing on top. And I've done that for so long now when I break commitments, because it's normal to break commitments. Like, nobody's going to bat 100%. But the difference is that, you don't ignore it. You don't be a dickhead about it. You don't pretend like it's not your fault. You just own up, and you set a new agreement. You set a new commitment, and people are like, okay, great. Because isn't that what you would want? It's what I would want. If somebody goofed up with me, I'm not expecting everyone to be perfect. We can't. Part of this game is to grow. So what would have been amazing, this was shot on March, is that if they would have just came clean, took ownership, and it said, hey, I got a new commitment for you. We're going to work to try and get your money back. I'm going to work to get new people brought in. That's going to bring new value to you, so that if you did, or let me take a step back. First, start at the top. I can or cannot get you your money back. If I can't, then I'm going to do something else. I'm going to give you so much more value. I'm going to bring you into this new exclusive group where I'm going to do this. Or I'm going to go out and I'm going to get all these other people and I'm going to get them to give you a discount because of my authority. And then you're going to get access to all these people, all these resources, all this value. And that's how we're going to make up for this thing, right? And I'm going to do that with you over the next 12 months. So everybody who is a victim of this situation, sign up to the form below and boom, right? Like that would have been the way to do that if I can't get your money back. Or if you can, hey, I'm going to go to bat for you guys and I'm going to try and work to get this money back. But it's not really going that way. Company folded, it's gone. He had direct relationship with the company. I mean, there's all kinds of disclosure issues that happen with this situation, but it really is a blow to the real estate community, because this guy was a Fox News anchor, he had all this authority, right? And you look at your average person, they watch Bloomberg, they watch MSNBC, CNBC, Fast Money, they're listening to Jim Cramer. Like, look at how wrecked Jim Cramer's gotten people. Just look at Lyft and Uber. Those were 2 awful calls that he made, okay? So people, news anchors with authority all the time are getting people wrecked. The only people who aren't getting you extremely wrecked on the news are the weather people. You notice that? Weather used to be really shitty. Like, they had no clue. It might rain, it might snow, it might not do anything. But now they're fairly accurate. Like, scary accurate, within like a very small percentile. They're really like the only people on the news who aren't getting you wrecked, really, especially on financial stuff. But anyway, so my point is that at the end of the day, like, the problem is much bigger than this, because none of these people are taking responsibility. None of the people on CNBC ever come out and say, hey, you know what, actually, I'm sorry, I had a bad call. None of these economists come out and say, oops, we goofed up, led to a recession, right? Like, look back to 2009. Where was the accountability? One person through the 2009 financial crisis got fired. You know that? Look it up. So it's a much bigger problem that's gone on for so long. That's why people get so emotional about this stuff. And I think that the fix itself is simple. Not easy, but simple. And it just requires you to man the fuck up. And if you screw up, you admit that you did, and you come up with some sort of plan to make it right. And you save face. And people feel like they can trust you again, right? Because people are really tolerant. Really, really tolerant. Just think of how long the average scammer lasts. They last a long time, right? And people go back to them over and over and over again because they're believing in what they're saying. It's going to be different. I'm going to change, right? Some say that, some don't. But anyways, that's my take on all this, guys. That's my take on scamming, redeeming yourself, doing stupid shit, and how men and women should behave in these different roles of authority. And that's, mostly my opinion. Let me know what you think, though. I'm very fascinated to hear your side of this and what you think. If you want to talk specifically about Morris Invest, that's fine. You can do that. If you want to talk specifically about crypto Twitter people who've scammed you, stock market people who've scammed you, hey, great. As long as it adds context to the overall story that we're talking about, I'm all for it. Okay? If you're brand new to the channel and you got here from either a suggested video or somebody sharing this with you through WhatsApp or email, welcome. Thank you. Go ahead and click the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so that we don't miss out on any updates. Also, too, this helps the channel actually get higher up in the rankings. You guys know the YouTube game is constantly changing. It's very difficult, actually, to get these videos up. That's why you see a lot of these videos only get a couple hundred views, and they shouldn't. It's a shame. They should get thousands, tens of thousands of views, because this stuff, what we're talking about, can really help markets, right? Can really help markets. These aren't just my thoughts that I pull out of my ass. These are thoughts and beliefs that have been perpetuated by great thinkers throughout time that I'm just resharing with you based on my study, my experience, okay? So anyways, if you like that sort of thing, that's what we talk about here on a regular basis. Finance, we're talking about building portfolios that last and grow in this community. You can sign up for free, by the way, and get access to our Discord and a bunch of free reports and a bunch of access to news so that you don't got to go on your Twitter and your Facebook all day long. If you want that, it's free. All you got to do is sign up underneath with your email address, and you'll get instant access to all that, and you can join us in the Empire community. All right, my friends, that's all I got for you. Bye.